Well, let's get more analysis now. Strategic Analysis Australia Director Michael Shoebridge joins me. Michael, good to see you. Is this really the end of the regime, as I've just been discussing there? Is complete liberation premature? How much risk is involved?
Well, Danica, I think you're right. It is very early in this military conflict. So we're only just over 24 hours from when the first Israeli and US strikes started. So it's got a long way to play out. President Trump said he expects the strikes to go on for at least a week. They could go on for much longer. There's two big things here, really. It's a high-stakes gamble to try and change a regime in this way because there hasn't been regime change by airstrikes in world history. So it's trying to get regime change by remote control. And second, the airstrikes can kill Iranian leadership, like the Ayatollah, but it's not going to disarm the 800,000 people in the army, the Revolutionary Guard Corps and the police. And they're the people with the guns, not the protesters.
Yeah, and just on that, so we've got the Ayatollah's dead, along possibly with his whole leadership group. These are the mullahs, so these are his successors. They've reportedly been taken out. But what you're saying there is there's still so many people, so many players behind the scenes. So, I mean, I think this is just so significant, but it just seems like it's a very small step forward.
Well, exactly. And so President Trump said his goals are remove Iran's nuclear program, destroy Iran's missile capability, both the missiles it has and its ability to produce them. I think that means drones as well. Destroy the Navy so it can't stop the oil shipments, and then give the Iranian people the opportunity to overthrow their regime. But these security services have been pretty fervent parts of the regime, and it's not at all clear they're just going to lay down their weapons and wait for retribution from their population.
And you mentioned as well, I mean, this has all been done by air. Can you really bring about regime change without soldiers on the ground? Can it be really pulled off without troops?
Well, I suppose we know from other attempts like Iraq and Afghanistan that even having ground troops doesn't mean it's easy or successful. But doing it without ground troops is a really big gamble. And as I say, you're not going to disarm 800,000 military Revolutionary Guard Corps police and then the religious militia that the regime has by airstrikes. You can destroy the big government facilities, some of the missile stockpiles and production centres, but not people with lots of automatic weapons.
Who takes over the reins now? I mean, there had been some suggestions of a return back to a Shah, Reza Pahlavi, who is the exiled crown prince of Iran. He's spent about 50 years living abroad now. He has already overnight outlined his plan for what he says would be an orderly and transparent transition to a democratic Iran. Can it get back to a democracy? And how long would that realistically take?
Well, there are so many people. I mean, certainly there are a large number of Iranians. Remember, it's a 90 million population. It's a huge country. There are plenty of people that really dislike their government. They were willing to go on the street and protest at great personal risk to themselves just in January. But there are also a bunch of rusted-on adherents of this regime and see it as a revolutionary and religious regime that they support. So civil war is a potential here, but really the people with the guns are still the regime. They have the upper hand when the bombs stop.
I want to actually talk to you about the strike itself. What struck me was that this was a daylight attack. Is that unusual? What would have prompted the US and Israel to go for it in the middle of the day? What sort of intel could have prompted that?
I think the key thing was the meeting happening in Khamenei's compound, in the leadership compound in the middle of Tehran. So the Israelis and the Americans obviously had enough very sensitive real-time intelligence to say the whole bunch of senior leaders are meeting in this single place, and if we strike now, we can decapitate the regime, and that's what they did. I think that was the key piece of intel.
And And what about the technology used to pull off something? Because Donald Trump in his statement said that highly sophisticated tracking systems were used. Take us through what that would entail.
Well, if we remember back to June last year, the Israelis seemed to have a whole lot of insights into the Iranian government's operations. Some of that would have been electronic, signals intelligence, interception, cyber kind of operations, but some of it is old-fashioned humans on the ground working for the Israelis and or the Americans. And obviously there's a lot of satellite overhead intelligence that you can look at to see who's going where.
And just before we let you go, how much credit do you give the leadership of both Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu to go in there and effectively cut the head off the snake?
Well, I don't think it would have happened under different leaders in either of the countries. I think Netanyahu has had enormous influence because he has great concern about the Iranian missile and nuclear program. He thinks Iran's weak and this is the moment to strike. And Donald Trump obviously made that key decision, not just to mass the US forces, but now to use them. So it's a unique combination of the two.
Well, look, it's been a massive day, and you're right, I don't think that any other leader around the world would have had the courage and the guts to go for it. Michael Shoebridge, great to have you on this evening. Thanks very much for joining me.